what America was and what it can become. This is Liberty Town Hall.
And welcome to Liberty Town Hall. Today we're talking about wealth and wealth producers bailing out of this country. Greg, since President Obama was officially reelected, I guess, I've had a lot of fellow businessmen say they're done. They are not going to produce any more wealth for this man. They are either going to shut down and just quit it because they don't need the money, and they really can't see any reason why they want the stress of working underneath this environment for businesses, or they're flat out right just leaving the country. And let me give you an example. One gentleman said, "How much should I have to pay to be a U.S. citizen?" Now you think that sounds pretty blatant, but think about it. How much should the wealthiest be paying to keep their U.S. citizenship? On his point of view, he says, all right, I can pay $1 million a year if I have a Mexican citizenship and do all the business around the world that I'm doing anyway. Or I can keep my U.S. citizenship and pay $15 million a year. So it's literally $14 million difference for him to live here in Michigan versus living down in Kabul. That's the only difference for him, is where he hangs his hat at the end of the day. And it's $14 million net difference for him. I mean, how many plane tickets can he fly back and forth? So he's looking at...
Buy his own jet and it'd be cheaper.
Well, he has his own jet.
Well, you see what I mean there.
Yeah, right. He has, I mean, that's a lot of plane fuel, no matter how you look at it. But not just him, but everybody. Think about it. People can live anywhere in the world now and do business.
Well,
so what's so important that's worth an extra $14 million for this one individual to keep a U.S. citizenship?
At one time, you could have said that, well, it's because you have freedoms here that you don't have elsewhere.
That's
you
not
have
true.
liberty here
Right.
that you don't have elsewhere. I said at one time.
Right.
At one time, yeah, we were charged more, but you were gaining a lot more benefit. The sad news is today, I can understand where these guys come from.
South America's got better liberty than we do here.
I can understand that, and they're right about not every country in South America, but there
I mean,
are countries.
South Africa, I mean, they just went through and they just had their big civil war, and they created their constitution based on our constitution. And so they've actually hit the reset button and gone back a couple hundred years on liberty, where we were, what we fought for, that's where they're at, because they just experienced it. It's fresh in their minds, the sacrifices they had to pay to get this liberty. And I think we forgot it. But why should these wealth producers stay here, Greg? That's what I want to make sure we get out on this show here today.
Well, and that's what we're going to talk about, Glenn, because there are reasons that we need people to stay here. And they are powerful reasons, and we're going to share them with you today.
Yeah, we need them as bad as they need us.
You'd be surprised. It's Liberty Town Hall. My name is Greg Marshall. He's Glenn Wilson. Stand by. We'll continue. Hi, I'm Greg Marshall. That's Glenn Wilson. Welcome back. It's Liberty Town Hall. Check out our website, will you? libertytownhall.com. There's a lot of interesting information there, past episodes, where you can find us on television at a lot of good places you can check us out. libertytownhall.com. Today we're talking about something that should be near and dear to everybody's heart, but I'm betting it isn't, because we have a class warfare issue going on in this country, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Millionaires leaving the USA. That's a conversation we need to have. Why would you want to leave this country? Isn't this country the land of opportunity, the people that look at for the dreams and so forth that they can have here that they can't have elsewhere? That's what it's supposed to be. Is it that way here today, Glenn, now?
One of the biggest problems I see is that we're villainizing the very people we need to help get our economy flowing again, Greg. It's not just them leaving or being unpatriot or whatever. They are being viciously attacked for doing their job. And let me explain that. A lot of people have mutual funds, 401ks and whatnot, and they watch the stock exchange very diligently. They want to see that go up, not down. So just picture this company that, small company, $250 million company in Wall Street. That's a pretty small company these days. That company is going to hire the best person they can to make money. People need to understand the reason for businesses existing is to make money. They're not here to make jobs, they're not here to make products, they're here to make money. And smart people figure out what products needed And what do I have to do to build and do whatever to get that product going? Well, that means I need to hire X, Y, Z people to make the widget, and then I have to find a place to market it, and so on and so forth. And these guys specialize in this. So if you were the sole person to get to pick who's the head of this company, right? Are you going to hire, let's say, Pete over here, who can make your company $1 million a year? Or are you going to hire Joe over here or Sue over here that can make your company $50 million this year? So think about it. Would you pay somebody $5 million to make you 50? Well, you wouldn't pay somebody $5 million to make you 1. So these very people that the biggest wealth producers, the ones that know how to get it done the best, it's a bidding war. I mean, company A wants you, so company B, they'll pay you a little bit more. And these guys earn their pay for those companies. So it's not what we're paying them, it's what they're producing that people seem to keep forgetting. And what does it mean to pay your fair share? That's the whole other side of it. And that's why I ask the question that they seem to ask me is, how much is my fair share? How much do you want me to pay to be a U.S. citizen? Because they are getting tired and sick and tired, I guess, of paying their money to have it given away or wasted by this government. And so that I think is the best case I can make to explain why they're so frustrated, Greg.
And you know, I can understand those concerns. And I can emulate with or agree with those concerns, rather. I mean, really can. Who wants to be putting money into a system that you don't agree with at this point? There is a vast majority of public who are concerned about the rights of its citizens being removed. And I don't care if you're on the left or on the right about that. There are some who believe the ends justify the means, but they don't like it. There are others who relish in it, but they're usually the people that are in power, and that's it. And then there's people who just appreciate freedom and liberty in our republic, period. But there's not very many people who just relish in the idea of just taking away freedom unless they're a political power player themselves. However, that's the big question, is how do we solve this issue? Now, you see, I think that we are at the point in society that the more we lose the wealth producers, the quicker the dominoes are going to fall and this nation's going to collapse. That's a legitimate concern. We should quit walking around believing that America's going to live forever.
That's the arrogancy that's going to get us. That arrogancy is going to bite us so bad.
Rome thought they were going to live forever. The Soviet Union thought it was going to live forever.
And as soon as
Hitler's Germany thought it was going to live forever. China thinks it's going to live forever. Napoleon's France thought it was going to live forever. The sun never sat on the British Empire, and they thought they would never end.
The entitlement mindset has brought down every great nation in the history of this country, or in the history of this planet.
The entitlement and the drop of morals in society.
Right.
Name me a nation that has embraced and encouraged, for example, homosexuality in the public arena that has not collapsed shortly thereafter. That is the last immoral collapse before you start seeing a nation fall, historically. Now, get mad at me if you want to.
We're just talking the facts here.
We're talking history right now.
This is not revisionist history, just fact history, right?
Exactly.
So, if you take the people that we need the most to figure out the inventors, we take the people that are willing to risk it and work 25 hours a day, you know? I mean, you ask them, there's 25 hours in a day, not 24, because they're still running behind. They're banking tomorrow's hour today kind of thing.
Yep.
And they're asking themselves, why should I kill myself day in and day out for a country that doesn't respect me, doesn't want me to do anything that I'm good at kind of mentality? This is what they're saying. So why should I keep my citizenship is what they're saying. And they're leaving. And now with Obamacare coming in, you have even more pressures put on. Somebody's got to understand that businesses don't pay the bills. The consumer pays the bills.
In the cost of the goods and services we buy.
Absolutely. 22% of your cost of your loaf of bread is in federal taxes that nobody seems to realize. So if you think about it, you start building all these up, you can only raise the price so high on a cost of goods. Gasoline, they got you by the short hairs, so they can double the price of gas. But you can't double the price of anything else and get away with it. So in the next segment, I want to get into just what price you want us to ask of the wealth producers. What are we going to ask the wealth producers to give up?
And we also want to get into what will happen if people leave this country, and will the tyranny that you feel like you're leaving follow you? Let's talk about that when we come back. There's a lot to cover, and we'll continue on Liberty Town Hall. Welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. Check out our website. We have information on past programs and a lot of other neat features that I think it'll be handy for you to have. A lot of little neat things that could just help you out in your day, and that's what we're trying to do here as well. LibertyTownHall.com, LibertyTownHall.com. We're talking about wealth producers and millionaires leaving the United States. Why, what? We went over the why of it. And I want to talk about what the aftermath may be.
It's going to be devastating. You're going to have the very people we need the most gone. They're just up and leaving.
Why do we need them the most?
Because they know how to organize. They know how to bring resources in a way to make them utilized in the most efficient way. They're leaders. They're people that are risk takers. They're people that usually have the strongest moral values. And we're driving them out of this country as fast as they can pack up their stuff and leave. That's concerning to everybody, I would think.
Where are they going? I mean, everybody's different. Give me some examples, though. Without naming names, give me a couple of examples.
Cabo, Mexico. I went down there to visit one of my friends, and you wouldn't believe all the estates that are down there. They're beautiful. And they're treated nice. The locals, they want these wealth producers. They're building the whole town and the whole economy out of the fact that they got this one piece of property that they can attract the wealth producers in. There's a perfect example. Cabo, Mexico. Everybody says New Mexico is a war zone and all this other stuff. Not true. The Baja Peninsula is completely off on its own here.
What happens if Mexico falls into a true revolution? Mexico has been on the teeter of that for decades upon decades. What happens if it truly starts falling under a revolution at that point?
America is going to be attacked again and again and
No,
again.
I ask about Mexico.
Well, Mexico,
what happens if Mexico
it's going to end up
falls
having a conflict with the U.S. and this is somebody on our border, I would bet.
Not necessarily.
No?
It could be internal. What if
Yeah.
they start having a revolution within themselves? Revolutions don't have to spill to other borders. It may, but it doesn't have to. What I'm getting at is, use the Kabul example. What happens to those guys if the whole country starts falling into revolution? You lose governmental services, you lose police power, everything starts going into chaos. Those guys are in serious trouble.
Well, let's
then.
take South Africa. They just went through their big revolution. They just got a new constitution. It's formed on this. I've got 3-4 guys that I know that are moving everything to South Africa because it's a chance for a new beginning down there. It's like America 2.0 down there right now.
Let me ask you a question. What happens to the planet? And I'll ask you this too as you're watching. What happens to the planet if the United States falls?
We're in
Whether
dire
it
strait.
be falling into some kind of government despotism to, heaven forbid, a meteor strikes and destroys most of the United States. What happens when this military might and this economic might goes away?
The leadership of the free
disappears?
world's gone.
And
Right
so
now,
then there's
right
no
now we got
more-
900 military
Take that-
bases
take-
all around the world trying to
take-
protect liberty,
Take
supposedly.
that to its logical conclusion. If the leader of the free world is gone, then what kind of free world do you have?
But
You have a
America is
Chinese
becoming the
military-
very country that we fought in World War I and World War II.
I don't
The
deny
exact
that,
principles-
but we've got to fight to save this country from what it is becoming, because if we let the nation collapse into chaos and into evil and tyranny, which is possible, the rest of the world will fall like dominoes. I talked to a friend of mine that has moved out, done exactly what you're talking about. He's moved out and went to New Zealand.
Yep, gone.
Guess
Out of here.
what he told, because I brought up the middle, he talked about how exactly, hey, a new start, new this, new that. It's like me in New Zealand's like being in America 50 years ago. It's a wonderful place. There's a chance to do this and do that. And he loves it.
Well,
And he taught, now hang on. I don't mean to cut you off, but I want you to hear me out here. I brought up the military concerns. What starts happening when the U.S. military is no longer functioning, which would
Right,
happen in
yep.
a state of collapse of this nation.
Absolutely.
The Russians and the Chinese would go crazy starting to grab portions of the planet.
Absolutely.
And they would grab New Zealand and Australia in a heartbeat. You know why I know they would? Because we're not there to pay for their military bills anymore. That
So they
would
have to
happen
go-
around the world. You would see the rest of the world
So when you say spoils of wars, they're going to go after them.
they're going to take them all.
Absolutely.
My friend was out in the water, and he said to me, when I brought that up, he said, "You've made a valid point, Greg." And he paused and was thinking, and he said, "You know, I was out on my boat the other day, and when I was out on my boat, I went past the New Zealand Navy." And I said, "What do you mean you went past the New Zealand?" "No, the whole Navy, I went past them." And
There's no military to defend
he
it.
says there's 2 destroyers
Right.
for all of New Zealand.
And they'd be wiped out
That
quick.
stands up against China, against
Absolutely.
Russia?
No,
Are you kidding me?
not a chance.
The planet will fall into chaos without us. That's why the entire world is this close to teetering on communism and what Ronald Reagan referred to as 1,000 years of darkness. We are that close to it now.
When it comes to protecting liberty and capitalism ideas, losing America would be like losing Israel for the Judeo-Christian background. I mean, that's like the heart and core base. This is the heart and core base of defending freedom. But the problem is, this isn't the country that was formed any longer.
Then
we
we've
have
got
to
to
address
fix
the fact that this is becoming a Marxist socialist
But that's
country.
why we have to fix it. That's why I'm saying these people have to stay here and stand up and fight and quit worrying about just protecting the resources. If we're giving up,
These are the logical business guys. These are the
logical business guys were the founders as well of the day,
they're
and they
watching
stood
a
up.
vote. They're watching that this
Didn't
country
the
is being
founders
voted
stand up?
with a gunpoint. These guys ain't about ready to pick up guns. And so literally, when you got people voting themselves welfare, which is what's going on, I mean, Governor Romney really got slammed on this one, and I want to cover this real quick before the break, but he got slammed because he said basically President Obama bought his vote by handouts, everything from the Obama phones on down. Everybody wanted the gimmies, and he was giving it to them. So who's going to give them the most? That's what went and voted for Obama. That's what he said. But that's the feeling of every wealth producer out here. They're tired of supporting this regime. And I say regime because he's not following the law. I'll say it flat out right. The man is a criminal. He should not be in power and trusted to control our military. I know we're out of time on the segment, so we got to go. And we'll come right back after this message. This is a really important subject. And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. We're talking about wealth producers leaving this country. The people we need the most to create the jobs.
The millionaires that are so vilified today.
Yeah, they're being told that they're the evil guys. And asking them to stay is one thing, but say, stay here, produce wealth, and by the way, you're the bad guy, that's what I'm going to call you. They're saying, why should I be the bad guy and be responsible for all these people?
I won't deny that's already going on, Glenn.
They're leaving by the thousands.
I've been in the broadcast business for 30
shutting down.
Yeah, just quickly to make your point. I've been in the broadcast business for 30 years, and in my 30th year, I finally scraped up enough together with a couple of partners, and we own a radio station
Yes,
now.
congratulations, by the way.
So we're excited about that.
PatriotVoice.us.
Yes, that's where you can listen to us at. But as soon as we did that, all of a sudden, some people started treating me like a fat cat.
Yeah.
And trust me, just before that, I was struggling just like everybody else, and still am, just like a struggling business.
I was going to say,
that's what businesses do at the beginning. I didn't
tell me
become a
you're
rich fat
rich.
cat just because I wrote a check to somebody and built some property and put a transmitter up on an antenna site.
But you earned it your own way, so it's yours to risk. The thing is these guys are producing wealth, and it's not theirs. It's being taken from them. It's being sucked away. And they're saying it's more freedom and more liberty in other countries all over the world than it is here. The tax rates are lower.
But they're not seeing the end game. They're not seeing that this is all being, this country is being torn down so they can create a planetary government that the UN will run. It's called the Federation of Earth. Look it up for yourself and see it for yourself. And so they want to take over the whole world. There'll be nowhere to hide, Glenn. There'll be nowhere to run.
You know, I'd like to agree
That's what I'm saying.
I would like to agree with our illustrious Attorney General, Eric Holder. I'd like to really agree with him.
Do you have a fever?
No, we are almost, I guess I have to say it, we are a nation of cowards. In a very well way, but not the kind of coward he was talking about. We're coward to defend our liberties. We're willing to run and hide and just throw up our hands and say, no, I will not allow this to be taught in my schools no more. No, I will not allow my government to redistribute our wealth. No, I will not be a slave to the government. Now, one thing that was never talked about during the last campaign, or the general election here, that really hits me because it's the biggest enslavement we got, and that's the Federal Reserve.
Hear, hear.
Their charter is up in 100 years, and that's in 2013. Their 100-year charter is up, and no one's talking about it.
Except us. And
Except
we'll do it
us.
again. Thanks for being here today. We really appreciate it. We've got to run. LibertyTownHall.com is the website. I'm Greg Marshall. There's Glenn Wilson, and this is Liberty Town Hall.
The right to freedom being the gift of God Almighty. It is not in the power of man to alienate this gift and voluntarily become a slave. These may be best understood by reading and carefully studying the Institutes of the Great Lawgiver and Head of the Christian Church, which are to be found clearly written and promulgated in the New Testament. Rights of the Colonists, Samuel Adams, November 20th, 1772.